2018, the maps were so poorly or so badly gerrymandered that you're right. It's a split state. For the U.S. House seats statewide, North Carolina was 50% red, 49% blue, and 1% other. So with 13 seats, you'd expect a 7-6 split. So badly gerrymandered that with 50% of the vote, Republicans took 10 of 13 districts.
Oh, wow.
Yep. That's how bad it was. So before 2020, the Democrats filed to sue, right? So delay, hearing, get too close to the election. They say, you know what? We don't have time, so we're just going to run with it. Great. Fast forward to 2022. Now the census comes out, right? Republicans calling their guys again to mess up the maps. And so now these maps that they have are even worse than the last maps. But what the court case will now, what the Supreme Court will hear is, do we want to use the new maps with 14 districts that's very, very poorly gerrymandered? Or do we want to go back to the old maps with 13 districts that are really, really badly gerrymandered? Not quite as bad. So probably what's going to happen, because I can't imagine any court saying, all right, we're going to give up a congressional seat. We're just going to go back to 13. So I think what it is, they're either going to roll with these maps or they're going to tell them to redraw the maps. Let's talk about option one for a minute here. Roll with the maps. So now we've got really badly gerrymandered. The reason it went to the Supreme Court and it lost in the lower court had 2 Republicans, 1 Democrat, and nobody was arguing that the maps are wrong. The reason that they ruled in favor of the Republicans is that there is nothing in the North Carolina Constitution specifically stating they can't cheat that way.
So it's legitimate cheating.
Legitimate cheating. Yeah, they stole it fair and square. So, it's like, so our Attorney General, very said, look, it's, a pursuit of happiness issue, if nothing else, right? So there is a basis for throwing these things out. Now, the Supreme Court, I want to say, has, I think 5, it's 3 Dems and 2 Republicans, I believe. Don't quote me. I'm not an attorney. I'm an accountant. But anyway, so there's a chance it can get thrown out. But probably what will happen is that they'll say, no, these are fair. So now we have to redraw them. Okay, so, and then everybody's got to be happy. We'll probably have to hear it in court again. So the primary was supposed to be on March 7th or March 8th.
Oh, wow.
They've already pushed it to May 17th now.
Wow.
Okay. So that's Erica too. Erica,
Yep.
Friend of the show, Erica Smith.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now,
Wow.
So if we get into this, now we're talking maybe a June, July primary. And then the general's right behind that. So
they do this by design.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, make no mistake. The Republican Party, in my humble opinion, since 1995, as a party, actively decided to overthrow the government. And this is where we are. And they started off the smartest place they could start off, setting up the Supreme Court, because that's the linchpin for everything. And so this is just, this is where we are at this piece of it now. But North Carolina is no longer a functioning democracy. It wasn't even with the 2018 maps. And that determination was made by some international board. And forgive me, I can't recall the name, but it's a Google thing.
Is there a state that is a functioning democracy?
I think probably most blue states are. Most blue states are.
Maybe.
Well, the Democrats, particularly in New York, have decided that they want to fight fire with fire. One can argue that it's not going to solve the problem, but New York apparently is going to now have a 23-3 seat advantage in Congress in the state. It was initially 18-8, and now they're adding. So it's a net 10 gain, because they're losing. One side's losing 5, the other side's gaining 5. The one state that seems to have it right is Michigan. Michigan has an organization called Ungerrymandered that is a completely independent governing body. They drew I want to say 14 congressional districts, I believe. and they basically drew them fairly evenly. I think it's a Democratic advantage of 8-6 or something like that.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because, depending on the year, Michigan is a swing state. But obviously, population-wise, it leans more, it leans slightly blue. So that would make sense based on the population. Problem is, the governing bodies of any given state, more times than not, their only concern is about protecting their own. And that's the big problem we have here is, how are we going to get past that? And, one of the things that we do encourage on our podcast is, we do need electoral reform, and we do think that ranked choice voting is something that could really help because a lot of independent voters just don't want to be involved. They're not interested in the electoral process because they don't want to be a part of either party.
Go figure.
Yeah, but I would like to think that if we had a ballot initiative like the one we're trying to have here in Florida, that could help mitigate a lot of that problem. How do you see that ultimately unfolding? Because again, as we talked about right from jump, it doesn't make any sense that somebody like Madison Cawthorn would represent Asheville. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. You couldn't be two diametrically opposed people in terms of what he espouses versus what that, not a major city, but, a minor city is about. I mean, they are as a liberal bastion as you're going to find, and he is as conservative Looney Tune as it's going to get. So, something's got to be done here.
Something's got to be done. And look, it all goes back to the fact that candidates don't win elections. Money does. 90% of the time, whoever spends the most money wins. And Madison Cawthorn had a lot of money behind him. You want to hear kind of a scary story? This will take about 2-3 minutes, but you want to hear a scary story about my primary in 2020? So here's what happened. There were 3 of us, and none of us were experienced. We're all off the shelf guys. So when there's 3 people in a primary, 3 Democrats, they pull a card basically to determine ballot order. Now we understand that if you're at the top of the ballot where there's no name recognition, you have somewhat of an advantage. So between the 3 of us, 2 of us went out and we hustled. We were out there campaigning all the time, got in front of people. There's another guy, Chris Ward, who ultimately won, who did nothing. And I'm not telling him, I'm not saying anything I haven't said to his face, right? And I'm not bad-mouthing him. It's simply a fact. If you look at his website, he talks about what a great guy Trump was, but he was a billionaire and he was a genius, but he just did some things he didn't like. So now this is a Democratic primary in a reasonably blue area. So anyways, he didn't do anything. He put up a website. We all did the same TV interview where we were all asked the same questions. And Chris's went so bad that twice during a 7-minute interview, he said to the interviewer, "This isn't going very well, is it?" And he wasn't wrong. And he wasn't wrong. But this is it. This is all anybody knows about him. He didn't come out once. He didn't meet anybody, didn't do anything. And on primary night, he won 48.5% of the vote because he was at the top name on the ballot. And everybody went out to vote for Bernie or whoever, and they just checked the top name. And so the thing is, if with 10 minutes of research, you would have understood that he knew nothing about the issues. He was, in fact, a Republican who didn't like Trump. So it's never good for a politician to put it off on the voters. But I would say collectively, we as voters have to do a better job of educating ourselves to avoid stuff like this. So I could see people going out to vote. Hey, Madison Cawthorn, he's on the ballot. Hey, cool name. Sounds like a soap opera guy. Probably a Dem because of his, bang, and just check the box. And that may very well be what happened. And so we as voters have to do a better job.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.